ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I am your host, following the shenanigans we got up to yesterday. Having a great old day with good friends, good company, good beer, great weather, and watching the Arsenal. Sadly, that little bit didn't go as well as we planned, but what a bloody good day. I'm joined by my sidekicks. I'm joined by old man Trev, Capo Dan, and back in Copenhagen, where you belong, because you brought a jinx to this game, and I won't have you here again for another Brighton game. You're banned. We've got Danish Gooner Alex. Alex, how are you?
I'm good. I'm quite tired. Just made it home in time for the podcast. But yeah, it was a deflating result yesterday, but it made it all worth the trip, the company, and the good time we had yesterday. I really enjoyed the day yesterday, even though the result wasn't what we wanted.
Yeah. Dan, Trev, we met up in the Woodbine. This is the bunch of us all together in the Woodbine. We're all, Alex will know because he stayed at mine with his dad and his sister over the weekend. We planned to get there for 1 o'clock. We were there banging on the door at 12. There was the beautiful Donna. There's Gary, and there's Victoria. There's Hannah. There's Tim. There's us four and Dale as well. What a fantastic day it was, and a good social event, Trev.
It turned out to be the best part of the day, didn't it? It was a very enjoyable 2 or 3 hours we had in the pub. Lots of alcohol was drunk, but it was drunk in the one of the best spirits I've seen in a pre-Arsenal game meet-up for a long time. We just laughed from start to finish, and I thoroughly enjoyed everyone's company that was there, and I couldn't speak more highly about it than it was the best pre-game I've had this season and in a long time. It was just fun. It was just good, and yeah, we've got to lift ourselves, boys, haven't we? You know,
yeah, we did.
Struggling here, but you know, it happens. We'll talk about it in a bit. It happens. It's gone. Got to move on. Difficult thing to do, but hopefully we'll do that tonight, eh?
Dale's just reminded me of that video, 2 Pints Trev. I will try and find it. I will try and put it up. But Dan, we've done a fair few boozy days and away days and home days and right throughout the season. But for me, it felt like a season end anyway. I know technically and mathematically and everything else, but it did feel like an end of season sort of beer and piss up sort of thing, wasn't it?
I'd argue that if you take up until the point we kicked off, it's one of my favourite this year for a number of reasons, because joined by nice people, you know, Alex and his family, and meeting people that have come over as well. The pub was great chat with great people, a great sing-song pre-match, and I think, look, we absolutely have to try and take the positives where we can. And I think one of the biggest positives is seeing the sheer number of people just getting involved and enjoying themselves before the game, with relatively less at stake than there has been in the last few weeks, but people just getting there and doing what they do best, which is enjoying the moment. And that's the reason why we're there, is to enjoy it, right? So doing the best to try and enjoy it. And it's difficult to pick yourselves up, I think, today. And I think everyone feels a bit like that. But I think, as we said, comments coming on here, is it feels like the end, but it's actually the start, and I think that's the main point to take from it, I think.
Yeah, listen, as we walked from the Woodbine, I also got assaulted, I might add, by a very, very special man. And if anybody's got children watching, please turn the screen away, because he's off duty, he's on his summer holidays, but he tried to strangle me in the Woodbine. I got assaulted by Father Christmas himself. He tried to strangle me and choke me of all my breath, and it was just uncalled for. I thought he was a kind man.
But all the kids are now going to be having nightmares about Santa being covered in tattoos and having a bald head. But
maybe Santa's gone rogue.
Sadly, I failed with the choking bit.
Yeah, you did.
Well, by the way, kids, Santa only does that to people on the naughty list, so maybe Fergus, you was on the naughty list this year.
Quite possibly.
He's not on the naughty list, let me tell you.
If anybody's got the video of the 2-pint Trev, send it to me and I'll stick it up in a minute. But just before that, just after that video, we do a little clip for Sophie and Super Kev on the Highbury squad. And this is just funny. This sums up how we've left the pub pissed and walking to the game. And it was just a great laugh. Have a look at this.
Sophie, Guns and Yellow Ribbons. We've had a few beers.
Stand up! Just the two.
Just the two, apparently. We're on our way to the Emirates. Who's the one with ginger hair?
So, listen, we're trying our best.
By the way,
it's
can we move? There's a car behind us.
Just go, that's good. Right.
So listen, expectations. We've just seen City, they're 2-0 up at half-time.
We don't want to see that.
So,
5-0 to the Arsenal.
5-0 to the Arsenal.
5-0 to the Arsenal. Take it all day long.
And they're missing some players. They're missing March.
We don't care.
I give up. Arsenal.
It's a proper walk to the ground, really.
Sophie, it's a sunny day in North London. We've just been on the marble steps and taken some photos. We've got some Alex over from Denmark and his family. And we got a ginger in tow, and we got Trev. So
He's on watch today, Trev.
Yeah, he's on what? Yeah, he's got over 2 pints.
I'm gonna have a beer in a minute.
There's one thing I'd like to say. We love you, Arsenal. We do. We love you, Arsenal. We do. We love you, Arsenal. We do. Oh, Arsenal, we love you. We love you, Arsenal. We do. We love you, Arsenal. We do. We love you, Arsenal. We do. Oh, Arsenal, we love you.
That was bloody hard work. That was meant to be a professional little bit of a piece to camera for the Highbury squad, which is a very big podcast. And you guys let me down. But it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Listen, let's look at the game. Well, first of all, as I said, we met Victoria and we met Gary, which is your dad, and he came to my local pub, and you tried to live up to Lewis Dunford's North London Forever song. What did you have, Alex?
I had a double pie and mash and liquor for the first time ever, so I'm a proper Londoner now.
Yeah, and you say weather now, don't you?
Weather.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, as we know, the Everton-Man City game didn't go our way. It wasn't really much of a surprise. I think it was a little bit of hope from us all that, Goodison isn't an easy place to go. But hey-ho, that's the way it was. Look, and I think I mentioned about a wounded lion last week, and many people took the piss out of me in the chat. But Brighton did come to us as a wounded some sort of animal, and it ain't David Attenborough all over again. But they did come after losing 5-1 against Everton the week before. The lineups were changed. Let's have a look at the lineup. Have I got the lineup in here? I bet I haven't got the bloody lineup again. I do have it. I'll have it in a second.
Can you explain that comment quick first?
I think we have to address Dale's comment.
Yeah, we do.
I think Alex, you can address that one.
The spunk Dale is referring to is not my actual spunk. It's it's some Danish sweets called spunk, and it's got a different meaning in Danish. So that's what Dale's referring to.
All right. So if anybody sees Dale's comment, you now know.
he was very partial to a bit of it, though, wasn't he? He did say he did like it, and
he liked it a bit too much, didn't he?
Yeah, Dan had the red ones.
I'm thrown. I'm completely thrown. I can't believe that comment's made it onto a podcast.
Listen, the lineups, there was a bit of a change. KT started ahead of Zinchenko. It's only his second Premier League start since 2023. Jorginho in for Partey. Trev, what did you make of the lineups, and how did you feel about the lineup? I don't think we had much of a choice with City nursing a knock and an injury.
Yeah, it was the side we expected when Zinchenko was injured, so Tierney had to come in. Jorginho for Partey, I expected that would be the case. And then the three up front with Odegaard just behind that haven't let us down all season. and I didn't think they'd let us down again. I genuinely thought we would beat Brighton, but I have to say that I underestimated what a good football team Brighton are, because I don't think they gave us a look in. I think we were beaten by a better football team on the day. They didn't allow us to play. And I'll give credit where it's due to Brighton. They played the game they needed to play to beat us, and they done the job. And we said earlier about we can't be angry. I'm not angry at what our players did on the field. They came up against an opposition. I'm just an opposition that were better on the day. I'm just such a bad loser, me. Such a bad loser that it just sends me off on a tangent of anger. And I know it shouldn't happen, especially not at my age, but I was just angry that we got beat yesterday, but not angry with what, I mean, I can't get angry with what I see from Arsenal. I never can. Maybe I should sometimes, but I never can. But I did think, before we move on and before I forget about it, I thought that Brighton played us well. They played us at a game that needed to be played, and they played well, in fairness.
And they did try and rough us up a little. I know that there was talk about this tackle by Martinelli as an elbow into Minoto, is that his name? The Japanese player, and he takes him out. And if I'm honest, I am surprised that there wasn't a card issued for that. Dan, what did you make of that actual challenge itself? I don't think I'll add, I don't think there's anything malicious in it.
Oh, I'm surprised it's not a card. I think it's a yellow card. But I'm also not surprised VAR didn't intervene because they can only intervene for a red card. So, so much so that you only see that by watching the game back in full. And when you look at the extended highlights, it's not even included. And I think it's not included for a reason. I don't believe, like you said, there's anything malicious in it. And it happens. But that's the sort of thing that we're starting to see more and more of, that, as they used to say, or as Wenger used to say, is an orange card, not a yellow, not a red. You've got to be careful. I think, for me, not quite a red, so I'm not surprised it's not intervened.
And 3 minutes later, there was a foul made on Martinelli, and that was made by Caicedo. Is this one here? Was he taking retribution for his playmate on the pitch? Alex, what did you make of the tackle? Now, I saw that as a very cynical foul. You can see the way Martinelli's ankle is twisted underneath Caicedo, and surely that should have been, again, could have been a yellow, red, orange. Alex?
Yeah, I think both Martinelli should have had a yellow card for the first one, and then Caicedo should have had one as well. And yeah, it was like a tough opening 15 minutes. Not much rhythm in the game, which I don't think helped us much. There was lots of stops all the time and free kicks. But yeah, I think it was a shame that Martinelli had to go off, because I think it was a big part of our game plan for this game. I noticed he was playing through the middle the whole time he was on the pitch, with Jesus playing on the left. And I think it was a big part of Arteta's plan this game to utilize Martinelli's pace through the middle, with Dunk not having most pace in their defense. So I think it kind of sort of ruined his tactical dispositions when he had to take Martinelli off.
31 minutes in, Trossard had a chance, and he'd beaten the keeper, Trev. How much do you remember of the game, Trev?
I remember the shot was coming off the shot. I remember the shot curling over the keeper and skimming off the top of the bar, and I didn't see much of the build up. But the thing is, right? I don't really know what to say here. I'm that angry today that we lost. For nothing else, we lost. I know I'm terrible about it, but obviously, if that goes in, it changes the game. It changes the game, but I just can't take anything away from Brighton. I'm gobsmacked at how much better than us they were on the day. I'm not saying their players are better than Arsenal or our players are awful and theirs are good. I'm just saying that on the day, I didn't feel that we would win the game from about the 10th minute onwards. it was one of them days, And I know we'll be back. We'll be back next week, and we'll probably turn Forest over, and then we'll probably beat Wolves, and then we'll finish second in a league where Man City are levels above. They're going to win. Is it 5 out of the last 6? Man City are 1, so that tells you what's going on there, So we're going to finish second. I'm angry now, but at the end of the season against Wolves, I'll still be in there an hour after the game, probably thanking the players for their contribution this season, because they've given me many days of laughter and happiness after a game this season, and very, very rarely a feeling like I'm feeling today. And if you go back in time a year or 2 or 3, I have many days feeling like today, many, many, many days feeling like today. And that's been turned around completely. So, I'm happy with what I've seen this season, just still struggling with yesterday. Maybe it's old age. Maybe it's old age.
You're just cantankerous. That's all it is, Trev. Dan, Trev mentioned that he thought from about 10 minutes in that this game wasn't going to work out for us. Was that because we lost the midfield territory quite a lot, and the fact that Jorginho wasn't as strong as he was against Newcastle, Zinchenko wasn't in that position, bolstering and allowing Xhaka to move up the pitch, and when Partey came on, he was the Partey that wasn't great, rather than the great Partey we've seen a few times this season.
I didn't quite feel the same, in all fairness. But then you're asking me, and I always think we're going to win, right? Let's be honest. I don't think I've ever really thought that we're not going to win. So I think we lost the game because we lost individual battles. When you don't win your 50-50s, those small incremental parts mean you don't win the game. And I don't think any one player is to blame. I saw a few comments saying about the players didn't put the effort in. I couldn't disagree more. I think those days are completely gone of the players not putting effort in. And not once have I come away feeling like the players have not tried. And that is a fantastic position to be in. And I think something we should all be proud of where the club's come from and where it's gone to at the minute. And as we said, as I said earlier, it's the start, not the end. Mick Arteta said he apologises to the Arsenal fans for letting us down. And, I'm not going to take credit for this comment because it's just someone else's comment. But they said, no, boss, you didn't let us down. You picked us up from the gutters and made us title contenders. We're proud. And that can't sum it up any better. I've literally got nothing else to add to that comment because that sums up exactly as we should all be. We're all feeling gutted for many, many reasons, and we all show our emotions in a different way. But that should be the takeaway once all of this sort of dies down.
We've got a start question, which I'll come back to in a minute. But just 51 minutes in, there was... let me just have a look at that one first of all. Sorry, Trev, because you mentioned it to me. We'll come back to that one because that is a topic I've got on there. So 51 minutes in, we conceded our first goal. Some people were quick enough on Twitter to start criticising Kivior. And we watched it last night, Alex, on Match of the Day, and some of it went in, and I watched it again this morning and read up some bits and pieces. And there's a foul on Kivior here where somebody goes onto his ankle and steps on his ankle and also takes his boot off. And people are criticising that because he was taken out of the game and it gave a free header to the player there in size. So bloody hell. You know what? I don't want to play Brighton that much more because all their teams,
they've
players,
got some difficult names, haven't they? Yeah.
For me as well.
Yeah. No, I don't know what to think of the situation. As you said, we saw it yesterday together on Match of the Day. And it looks like Evan Ferguson steps on his foot or ankle and his boot comes off. I mean, it doesn't look like it's intentional that he steps on his foot. So I think I'd be annoyed if Arsenal scored that goal and it would have been ruled out for that. So I'm not too mad about that one, to be fair.
Trev, actually, Dan, do you not think that they might have used VAR to look at that to see, if a foul had been committed in the build-up to the goal? Because it clearly was. There was a foul on the player.
They should do. I am of the opinion it's a foul.
Hang on, you carry on. You talk.
Does that mean I'm talking rubbish, that laugh? Yeah, I do think it's a foul, in all fairness. I do agree with you, though, Alex, that if that was given against us, I would be quite annoyed. I would say if you really want to be pedantic, though, technically, I think that's a foul. Anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. And I would go as far as saying it's also clear and obvious. It would just be quite soft, albeit a foul.
I think if the ref gave it, I'd go fair play, but I don't think it should be. I don't think it's a clear and obvious foul, in my opinion. But
it's what I don't like, right? It's clear and obvious. It's a foul or it isn't, and it's not half a foul. It can't.
But sometimes it's difficult with football because it's not always that black and white. It's not like either a foul or not. Some referees will give it as a foul and some won't. But
yeah, I disagree that should be the way it is. Unfortunately, that is how it is. I just don't think it should be.
Just to talk about this thing, it's called a landline, and nobody ever phones me on it except for my mother-in-law. So
what's that for? Never heard of that before.
If the mother-in-law phones, that's what happens. And she'd phone in the middle of in the middle of the podcast. Listen, there was another weird goal. Was the Odegaard goal? All three goals. Look, I don't think it's even worth going through the whole game line by line because it is what it is. We were outplayed in the game. Trevor's not interested in talking about it whatsoever.
Where we were outplayed, though, Ferg. Really, where we were outplayed, I think. Look, we were.
I think we were. You know what the disappointing thing for me was, and maybe we can talk about that, is the performance that we put in was so mature and so look how we grew up in Newcastle the week before, and very much the same side. Just didn't seem like they were up for it as much. Do you think that they saw the Everton result beforehand, and maybe they felt, well, it's a huge mountain to climb? Trev, what do you think?
I think that thought actually crossed my mind today. That actually crossed my mind. That thought, had Arsenal players seen the City result and it had lowered their performance levels. I would hope that that's not the case. I would think that that's not the case, but it's something that's we mentioned because it happened. I honestly think that we just went out on the day and we were on the day of the important words. On the day we were beaten by a side that played better, and I can't complain about it. I wouldn't swap many of our players, if any, for any Brighton players, even after that game, because I know the bigger picture. I've seen the bigger picture. But it is getting to be a bit, it's not worrying, but it makes you start thinking, right, that we have played that badly as we played the whole game yesterday, right? In previous games, but only for certain parts of the game. Like you take Liverpool, we played brilliant for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, then we didn't play so well. You take West Ham was very similar. You take Southampton, we just didn't kick off the game at all well, and then we played really well at the end of the game. Yesterday we seemed to have that bad period for the 90 minutes. I just felt that we weren't in it, and that's it. I can't say any more today. I'm normally got too many words, and you're telling me to shut up, Fergus, and I like
shut
that.
Up, Trev.
Piss off. Today I've just got to say that Brighton did a job on us, and Dan hit the nail on the head just now. Absolutely perfectly hit the nail on the head. And we should save this line until the end of this podcast because it's the most important line you're going to hear all night. What we have to remember is when you're in a mood like I am now, or any of you lot are in, this is just the beginning. Yeah? This ain't the end. This ain't the pinnacle. This is just the beginning. Young team, young manager, beginning. Let's see what we do next season, eh? Let's see what we do.
And a huge influence on our season this season was the French Rolls Royce of a player. So the ladies are cracking up for Saliba, and
they were all hanging off me. The ladies, they know.
Yeah. It's just typical. Look, the way that we perform with Saliba in a game versus, say, Rob Holding as an example. Here's some of the stats. Alex, what's your thoughts on how losing Saliba has affected us, and also the reintroduction of Gabriel Jesus, who was really, really good at the start of the season, and who has been still good when he came back, but he needs to score more goals, as Danny said. What's your thoughts on Saliba Jesus?
Yeah, first of all, I think we have really missed Saliba, and that's the difference between us and City at the moment, is that when we lose one of our key players like Saliba has been all season, they've got someone just as good where we just haven't at the moment. Kivior's been pretty good the last 3 games he's come in, but he still needs time to adapt and get into the team. But I saw a stat yesterday saying that in the first 28 league games with Saliba, we conceded 25 goals. And then the last 8 games without Saliba, we've conceded 17. So that's almost as many in 8 games as we had in 28 with Saliba. So I think it's quite evident that we really miss him in our defense. And we just don't have the depth that City has when we're missing one of our key players. And then in regards to Jesus, I don't think he'll ever be like a goal scorer like Haaland is. He's got more to his game than that. I don't think he'll get much more than 20 goals a season. I agree, could have scored more goals towards the end of this season. There has been some moments where he hasn't been clinical enough. But what I like about him is he does so much more than score goals, and he's got so much more to his game than that. But I think that's something we could look to add this summer, like a proper goal scorer, number 9, who will just score goals and maybe come in and change the game if we need that next season.
Dan, do you think the loss of Saliba and then the reintroduction of Jesus has messed with the equilibrium of the squad? Because, the way we play out from the back with Saliba as an example, with and without him, you can see where the attack is going. It has to move over more towards Zini, and that's down to like the capabilities of Rob Holding, who likes to put the ball more central and more short and simple pass, rather than Saliba was more varied with his passing.
Look, I think we've sort of touched on Holding enough, and I think he didn't play yesterday, so I think it's unfair to
I'm not going into Holding. I'm going the difference with losing Saliba and then also Jesus coming back in.
My criticism with Holding is the way we've played out from the back. Okay, and I feel like when Kiwior has come in, that has changed a bit. But I think the one thing we're overlooking, right, is that these players are human just like anybody else. And they're not only human, they're young. Okay, and they've not gone through the same experiences that so many top-level professionals have that are in their 30s, right? So there are going to be things that affects this team more than we can even comprehend. And just losing Saliba without the ability that we've lost, because he's an unbelievable player, but mentally, to have someone that you quite clearly trust so much in that team to not be there, I think is in their minds. And I think it does play a big role in the way we play. You could bring in someone that was exactly the same as Saliba, but without his name, and I think it would affect them mentally. And I think that's probably where I would say we need to grow as a team is our mentality a little bit. But you have to expect that with such a young side, right? And I feel like the criticism of the team at the moment today has been too much for me, and I feel like the team needs to be defended a little bit more, because
we're not criticising on here.
I'm not saying you guys, but I think in general that the feeling around this team is
Dan's
too
right,
negative.
Dan's
I genuinely think it has been, right, and I feel like this team has put effort in. This team has put effort in all season, and I haven't seen a single change in that effort. Maybe there are other factors that have affected this team. Maybe they've got tired physically, mentally. Maybe it's too much for such a young side. Maybe the squad isn't big enough. I agree with all that. But yesterday wasn't because of that. Listen, yesterday we come up against a side in Brighton that, just like last week against Newcastle, when we were up for it and we won our 50-50s, they were the same against us. And very, very fine margins affect results, and that's what affected yesterday. But that 3-0 scoreline is a massive exaggeration. And people are going to look at that and say, Arsenal got battered. We didn't get battered. In the first half, I would argue we had the better chances. I think Brighton had a very smart game plan. They played the ball around very well in their third and in their half, and they were quite direct over the top, and they hit us probably where it hurt. They scored 2 late goals, and that 3-0 defeat, for me, changes people's view of how we are and how we played. If that was a 1-0, I don't think they'd be over-exaggerating like they are for a 3-0. And that 3-0 came from a young squad that got disappointed and dropped off at the end.
Dan, I do agree with you, and to a certain degree, we're talking about done with yesterday. To a certain degree, it was more like Arnie, but a question up there. And do you think? Well, do you want to put that question back up, Trev?
Where is it? I've not started, mate. Keep talking. I'll find it. But I want to come back to on Dan's points in a minute because he's.
Yeah, Arnie does. Do you think when Jesus came back, we dropped off? And this is what I was saying about the loss of Saliba. He's clearly made a difference in the defence, and we look at home wins and conceding a goals as well. But Jesus coming back into the squad, we were typing a role. We had a momentum going, and we're all delighted to have him back. But it seems like we've spluttered a little. Do you know what I mean?
I'll be really, really brief before I pass over to Trev. But in short, I think no. I think without Jesus, I don't think they scored any more goals than with Jesus. I think Jesus is a big, big player and brought the team up another level. And when he come back, I actually think he added a few more goals. I'd be interested in seeing his stats. How many goals did he score before and after his injury? Because I probably would say it's not too dissimilar. I would imagine
he's not been prolific as a goal scorer, but he, as
you know that, right?
As Alex said, he adds more. Go, Trev. Go on.
Look, listen, right. The first point that we spoke about then was the fans have been on the players' backs today. Well, if you've looked on Twitter today, all the lowlifers surfaced again and saying their piece, and they're not fans. They just get an instant block from me. They're not fans. They don't know anything about football. We've got people calling for Arteta's head. We've got people saying the players bottled it, blah blah blah. And then when you look at their profile, they're claiming to be Arsenal fans. Let me tell you now, they are not Arsenal fans, right? They are not Arsenal fans. They are people that go on Twitter and have no idea about a game of football. We lose one game and they think it's the end of the world. Well, we all know as proper fans that that's not the case. Secondly, the Jesus point is very interesting. It's another thing I've been thinking about today, right? With the Jesus position, and I knew it was going to be a talking point about whether we're scoring enough goals with him in the side, or whether he's committed enough, and whether he's bringing a big difference to our side since he come back. Well, for me, right, I say, yeah, he absolutely contributes more than we could ever hope for, right? But he contributes in a very similar way to all the rest of the players up front. For me, right, Jesus, Martinelli, Saka, Trossard, they do slightly different things, but they do it all the same way, right? And for me, this is what I've been thinking about today, not about the game itself, about what goes on around it. And for me, if we talk about strengthening our squad, right, we talk about bringing players in and squad depth. And for me, it's a massive, massive thing to do would be to buy a big old proper striker, right? A big old proper striker. We spoke about it before, but we have to speak about it again, right? And just think about what that does to our squad depth. If you've got a Haaland or someone of that mould, right? Then you rotate Jesus, Martinelli, Saka, and Trossard, and then suddenly you think, wow, we've got a very strong squad up front. You know, it changes the whole perspective. One player, you know. So that's been my chain of thought today. But I have to reiterate because I've got it in my head. Do not think that those people you see on Twitter. And I'm going to name one, right? I'm including that idiot Piers Morgan in that, right? Because he's just an attention-seeking idiot. We know that, right? And even he's been at it on Twitter today. The bloke is a complete and utter clown. In fact, I'm giving Piers Morgan, right, a trophy today. I'm giving him the King Clown of the Week award, right? Because what I've seen him putting on there today, he should be thoroughly ashamed of himself. Thoroughly ashamed of himself. And his followers can go with him and get lost.
Well said. Well said.
I might just
Give him a bit of an applause on there. Listen, while we're on about different players and so on, Lee, I bumped into Lee Judges afterwards, and we're having a bit of a chat. And I do remember one little bit of conversation. He mentioned to us, he said that he was really pleased, like you, Trev. He was really, really pleased with how the season has gone. He can see that it's, for the first time in a long time, this team has given him something that made him feel happy and proud about. Because we haven't, we're always proud to be an Arsenal fan, but it has been a joy this season to follow us up and down the country. And they gave us a title challenge that we never expected. But the one thing he did say is that he called Arteta out on one point and one point only, was away from home, our defensive record seems to be way, way better than our home form. And if you look at the defensive record, we conceded 25 goals at home and only 18 away. Why do you think that could be? Because this is the home table versus the away table, and our home record, we're third, and in the away record, we're top of the table. Surely Alex Ferguson and Wenger and many other managers before have said, win your home games first, and then you'll get enough results on the road, be it draws and wins, and then you can win the league. We clearly haven't won enough home games to get across the line. Alex, what's your thoughts on that, first of all? Is it a tactical thing? Is it due to Saliba? Is it down to Ramsdale not being pushed enough by having Turner as an understudy?
I think you could put it down to many things, but yeah, I think it probably comes down to that we play a bit more pragmatic when we play away from home, and then at home at the Emirates we go a bit more forward, and that causes us to leak a bit more goals. But you said it before, like, we've done the difficult part now. We've learned how to win our games away from home. So hopefully next season we can make some adjustments to play a bit more secure and stable at home, and then give City even a bigger run for the money next season.
Dan, we've seen Arteta change tactics and change formations and being a lot more creative, and not the baby Pep some people have said and so on. Should he have not picked up on how well we were doing, being top of the table away from home, to try and get a better outcome at home?
That's a tough one, because don't forget, other teams' approach will be different against us at home to away. And when we go to a different ground, we are facing a team that's probably going to come out at us a bit more than when we're at home. When we're at home, most teams will sit in and try and frustrate us and waste time. So you have to try and come up with a way of breaking that down. I don't see it really as that being the issue about the way we're setting up. I think it's more to do with, it's a point we need to develop as a young side, right? Because you look at Man City, they're a fantastic defensive side as well as they are offensively. But what they don't do very often is switch off and then concede a goal. And what we've often done is we've gone, let's say, 3-0 up and conceded a late goal and not kept a clean sheet. And I think that comes from a younger squad. And you can't blame everything on being a young squad. So I'm not sure. I'm sure that's not the only reason, but I think that's a bigger factor in it than how we're setting up.
Do you have any thought on that, Trev?
Yeah, well, there's obviously some kind of difference going on. Maybe teams come to the Arsenal and play differently to they do at home. When we go away to other teams, they're going to open up a bit more and give us more space to get into to score goals.
We did see Bournemouth and Leeds try a tactic which is using the kick-off as a set piece and scoring goals in the first 10, 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. We just mentioned Man City, right? And there's no accusations here, and we have to be careful what we say. But trust me, right? Man City have got this some kind of power at Man City, and it's got to be, for me, in my opinion, it's got to be money. There's money changing hands. Take it from me right now, right? There's talk about us getting Declan Rice, okay, in the summer, right? But take it from me right now. If Manchester City want Declan Rice will go to Manchester City, right? I'm telling you for nothing. If Man City decide they want a player, they get him. They don't miss out on it. When have you read Man City were in for this player but missed out? Man City were in, you read it all the time about the other teams in the league, the other 19 teams in the league. That, you know, someone was in for Haaland, but Man City got him. Someone was in for Grealish, but Man City got him. You never read Man City missed out on a player because he chose to go somewhere else. Because Man City are doing something with this, right? And I don't know what it is. I'll never know because I'm not worthy of knowing. But Man City will buy the league in the next 5 out of 6 years unless we find out what they're doing and it's knocked on the head, right? Knocked on the head.
Listen, I think that was the police coming for you. Obviously, Pep and his team have called the police on such a slanderous remark. How dare you say that Man City may have committed over 100 corruption and get charged with 100 corruption things? It's disgusting of you, Trevor. Another player, though, that since we're looking at different players and trying to talk about different things, is Saka. He's come into an awful lot of attention from other players. Other teams have put 2 and 3 people on him. We've seen it time and time. We talked about it on here. The treatment that Saka gets. I've said it over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Is it time to rest him? But what's your thoughts on Saka then? I'll go to you, Alex, on it first. Looking at Saka, he's at a bit of a drop off at the minute.
Yeah, I think just, looking at the stats and facts of the last 8 games, he's had 1 goal and 1 assist, and I think he's just run out of gas. He may have needed a bit more protection, firstly from the officials, I think so. I think he's been treated quite rough by the opposition teams and haven't had enough protection from the referees. But then maybe also, I think Arteta should have rested him a bit more, which I know is very difficult with the squad depth we've got at the moment. But hopefully we can bring in some more depth to next season, which will enable us to rest Saka, because he really looks tired, and he looked tired as well yesterday. So yeah, he's really run out of gas, it seems. So I don't know what you guys think about Saka and his kind of drop off the last 8 games.
Trev?
I think that's correct. I think that we could have done with resting Bukayo Saka. You all know, don't worry, Fergus, I'm not going to dive back, but you all know I have a special connection as a fan of Bukayo Saka's.
During the war, the Ukraine war.
Yeah. But I was what it is, but he could have done with a rest, maybe. But I think my feelings are that if you get a 50% of Bukayo Saka in a game, it's probably worth 100% of a lot of other players, and he plays him in hope that he's going to give us another big performance. But Bukayo does look worn out. He looks tired. And I've not looked back at yesterday's game, but if you look back at the previous weeks at times, Newcastle, he's getting double marks now. They're working him out, and Saka's getting 2 players on him. But if Saka's got 2 players on him, that should make it easier for the rest of our players, because there's a space somewhere, So you can look at that in both ways. But I reckon Saka's tired. As Spencer's put down, I'm not going to put the comment up for a minute. I've not read it all. Saka's played a lot of football for England. He was one of the few players that Southgate kept playing for the whole bloody 90 minutes of a game. Didn't give him a rest. He's played lots of games for Arsenal, and he must be tired. And I just hope, I don't know, that there's no stupid internationals at the end of this season, and a lad Bukayo can get his sliders on, get his budgie smugglers on, and go and have a couple of months in the sunshine with his feet up, coming back to be the player we know he is, right? That's all I ask.
To answer your question, there are stupid internationals in June. Dan, what's your thoughts on Saka? Clearly, as Alex said, the lack of depth in the squad does make a difference. And, should we do as Spencer said, rest him and bring him on as a super sub?
No. I would say, and I don't change my opinion on last week on Bukayo Saka. When Bukayo Saka's fit, Bukayo Saka starts because he's that good. And you look at one other player, for example, Lionel Messi. How many games has he played over longevity of his 17, 18-year career, how many times has he been rested and missed games? Not that many. Top players play every game because they are that good. And that lad has the ability to be exactly the same and should be playing every single game. Don't make the excuse that he's tired. Don't make the excuse that he needs resting. The lad on his own attracting 3 or 4 players, he could have the worst game possible if he's attracting 3 or 4 players over to him. He creates spaces for others and he creates spaces for the team to go and do what they need to do. That lad gets in that team week in, week out, and I think he starts every game.
Okay. A few more pictures of the day just to brighten the mood. This is us on the marble steps of Highbury before we done that video. There's another picture here of Alex, his dad and his sister outside the new stadium wrap. A great picture that. I don't know who took it, but brilliant photographer. That's all I'd say.
Couldn't have been you. Must have been Chan.
Hang on a minute. Alex, you got your sister's shirt on, son.
It's a different one, but good spot though, Trev. Good spot.
This is Victoria, Donna, me, and Trev having a light refreshment, and this is the Block 5 Massive. We don't look drunk there at all, boys, do we? Not a little tiniest.
Not
at
all.
Not at all. And
can I just make one quick comment? Just back to one of the comments in the chat. Just responding to Lyle. Maybe Messi's a bad example. So let's look at someone else because I've just looked at the same stats. Ronaldo, who has also played Spanish League in the Premier League for Manchester United, the exact same average game rate per season, and another top player that is at the top level of his career over that 20 years, and no different. I stand by my comment that top players play every single game.
I get your point. Personally, I think Saka had looked exhausted, and I would have rested him a few games back and brought him on. You could have started Trossard and then brought him on. Somebody we bumped into yesterday, Alex, is Gil Gillespie. He watches the show, and he wanted a photo with us, and he was really complimentary of yourself and Dan and Trev and even me about the show. So that was really, really nice. It's nice to bump into people who say, "Oh,
I've laughed all day."
What's that?
Even me.
Even me.
Big yourself up a little bit, son. We know you're not in our league, but you are with us. Come on.
Yeah, you bolster me up. That's what it is. And another one that you met and who does all these pictures. There's Dan giving it large in Block 5, and we got Dale as well. Giving it large, block 5, and that's Chan or Steve, as Dan knows him. He never
gonna leave me, is it that?
No, it's never going to leave you. There's a few things that will never leave you. Some shall stay on tour, I'm afraid.
They have to.
Even the video I've got loaded up here. I have got the video loaded here.
Uh-oh.
We all know what he's talking about.
No, folks.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Do you know what? Do you know what, Ferg? Right? Dan's got this passion about getting fans singing, and there's no doubt he's lifted our club this year. And my missus, my beautiful wife, came to the first game yesterday, first game of the season yesterday, and she knows a bit about football. She does know quite a bit about football, does Donna. And she was so impressed with the way Dan just persisted and got that crowd buzzing yesterday. It was amazing, and it needs to be mentioned. You know what happens round there. You go into that game you go into the stadium itself, into the bowl, in a completely different frame of mind when you've been round by that block. You're lifted already, right? So Dan, it needs to be noted, and it needs to continue, Dan. And for me, this is what made me think about it. For me, my big gripe, right, is North London forever. It sounds amazing. It does a job, right? It does a wonderful job. But if you look at them videos and you look around you, there's still only about half the fans singing it, and it sounds that good. If we need to get every single person in that stadium singing that song, taking the roof off every week. Don't be embarrassed to sing it. If you're a proper Arsenal fan, you won't be embarrassed about backing our boys. Wrong word of proper there. Sorry, guys. If you're an Arsenal fan, you shouldn't be embarrassed about backing our boys. Everybody sing that song, our anthem. It's mentioned on the telly now. Righty was talking about it the other day on a podcast about how much it lifts people, right? And we need to get everyone in the stadium singing it. And Dan's a big part of that. So I'll say thank you, Dan, for what you do. You do me head in sometimes when you're in my ear singing because you give this old guy an headache. But I can take that all day long, mate.
Yeah, what Dan, Reese, myself, and Dale and many others do in Block 5 has been absolutely brilliant. Block 25, well done, Andy. Block 25, Block 26, where the Ashburton Army are, they need to be supported. Seriously need to be supported. I'm not hearing some good things about some people in the club who don't like the Ashburton Army. I'll say no more. I'm going to reach out to them, but they need to be supported. They need to network properly because there are some horrible people within the club who have no understanding of football whatsoever that would like to see Ashburton Army disbanded. But we don't.
Let me come back on it. Sorry, mate. I'm embarrassed here. I'm a little bit embarrassed. If there's any of the Ashburton Army lads watching, I'm sorry I didn't mention you there because you're doing just as big a job. Trust me. It's noticed and you're not supported as you should be. I don't think some people are appreciating just what a difference it makes. So, yeah, I meant every word I said about Dan, but I apologise to the Ashburton Army if they're watching because you boys have been magnificent this season. And long may it continue. Right, Fergus, I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, it's fine. Listen, there's one thing, there's two things I want to do. First of all, our manager done an apology yesterday. Anybody think he should have apologised? I'll play the apology if you want. Do you want me to play the apology?
Can do.
You can do. It means nothing to me. It wasn't needed.
Yeah, I was standing here and feeling proud, and that's the feeling that we had. And today we have to apologize because the performance that we had in the second half is not acceptable.
We'll come to the actual performance itself. As far as you're concerned, although not mathematically yet, do you think that's it? The title gone?
Mathematically, it's still possible, and this is football. But today is impossible to be thinking about it. We have to first digest the result, the performance that we had in the second half, and understand why, and obviously have a very different reaction the next game.
Brilliant.
I think you said it earlier, and I didn't know you were going to say what you said about, what it was. Somebody tweeted it's the beginning, and he's given us some great times. He's given me a great season. I've ended up doing 40 out of the 45 possible home and away games this season, thanks to a good network of friends. Someone who was in hospital. He's given me a great season, a season that I'll remember for forever. It would have been the cherry on the cake had we won the title, and mathematically and all that sort of stuff. But Alex, what's your thoughts on an apology? Is it necessary, and was that appropriate?
I think for me personally, I didn't need an apology. I think I understand why he felt like apologizing because he. I think it's a sign that he cares as well, Arteta. He's a manager who really cares, and you can tell from his post-match interviews as well. You can tell when he's very disappointed. He was gutted yesterday as well, and when you've just let the fans down in the game, like they did yesterday, I think it's fair enough he goes out and apologizes. But me personally, I didn't need any apologizing because, like you guys, it's been the best season I can remember in a very, very long time. So no need to apologize to me.
Trev, your thoughts on it? I know you said it's irrelevant.
It is irrelevant. But having said that, if you just flip it over for a second, if he'd have come out in front of the TV cameras and done his interview with a smile on his face and you'd have got the impression that it wasn't sincere, that we just lost, and you didn't think he was taking it seriously, then everyone would have been on his back, right? Now they're on his back for a good reason, in that he's apologised, and no one thinks he needs to apologise, right? But he did the right thing, because you look at his body language, you look at his facial expression, you look at not just what he says, right, but the tone of what he says. You know what it meant to him to lose yesterday, right? And at the end of the day, it don't matter what us lot think about us losing. It's how Arteta feels about losing, because he's the man that can make a difference. And he has I have every faith in the man.
I think that was what he was trying to emphasize as well in his post-match.
Dan,
can
you
I
can
just
see.
come back on the first few points. I mean, just to say about Arteta's apology, I agree, no apology needed. But there's a few things that you guys said about, and I can't speak for other blocks, and I'm sure there's many, many other blocks around the stadium that are doing the same thing, if not more. But I can only talk from my own perspective, right? And the difference between being a one-man idiot that stands there shouting on his own and part of a fantastic fan base that sing their hearts out is all the other guys like yourselves and many other fans that join in. And that is, I think, all we can do as fans ultimately, right? And I can tell you from my own perspective, the reason why I do it is because, one, I love the club. One, I've always loved football and Arsenal since I was a kid. But I just feel so privileged to be in a position to be in that stadium, to be able to go and support the team. And that is why and everyone is totally entitled to their own opinion. And I'm not trying to take away people's opinions. But my own opinion is support means being there, not just when it's going well, but going there when it's not going well. And for me, support is more important when it's not going well than when it is going well. And I can just only imagine that those players that probably just felt exactly the same as we did, because half of them are fans as well, and they've gone off that pitch. And sometimes all you need as a person is an arm around you, and you need a friend and someone to pick you up. And I think the players need the same. And this is why I had the opinion that I didn't like to see people walk out at that time. And I wanted to see people stand there and sing "We Love You, Arsenal" at the end. And I guess one thing I didn't pick up, right, is that everybody feels differently after that game, and everyone's gutted, but everyone shows it in a different way. And some people just want to get the hell out of there because they feel so bad. And I do understand that. That's just not the way that I see a fan of the club. And it doesn't mean you're not a fan if you don't do it that way. That's just my personal opinion of how I am as a fan and how I see myself being a fan. And I know everyone on here is going to probably have a different view. So it really would be interesting to see how you guys feel, because everyone feels gutted in a different way.
Dan, we spoke yesterday and we spoke this afternoon as well about, in particular, like the fans. I put the photo up there of the drone that they sent up, convenient that they send a drone up and making fans leaving a football club is a front page news. But I did find it disappointing to see the number of fans that left early. But I also understand the disappointment and the dejection that people felt, because for me, I was absolutely floored. A bit like we put the picture of you and Trev up at City when we lost the game at City, and that feeling, we've had it a few times this season, not many, thankfully, but yesterday was a big one to know that it was finally realistically gone, and that really, really hurt. I think this Twitter sphere and people got very emotional, and some people said about Trevor used the word proper, a proper fan. I don't think you can say somebody staying or leaving is a proper, not a proper fan. I've walked out of games in the past. I've walked out of Man City at Wembley, the Arsenal Man City game at Wembley, when I can't remember what the bloody score was, but it was freezing cold in February and Man City were tearing us a new one. I was done with Wenger at that point. I've walked out when we lost against West Brom when Almunia was like a clown in goal. I don't do it often, but I can understand it. I'm with you. I stayed there till the end. One, for two reasons. One, what the team has done for me this season and the season I've had. And two, I was with my friends as well. And I wanted to feel like shit with my mates around me rather than just standing in a concrete concourse. That's my take on it.
There's a few comments there that I think are absolutely valid, right? And everyone does show it differently. And myself included, I'll admit that I was probably wrong in saying the way I said it, because everyone has their own view and their own way of showing emotion, right? Some people are good at it, some people are not. But there was a few comments, right? And the abusive ones I can take, they actually really don't bother me. But the ones that said, for example, if you stay there and watch the third goal, you're weird. What a world we live in where you're apparently weird to stay there and support your team to the end for the third goal, but you're not weird if you want to walk away and turn your back on them. That's how I saw it. And I was quite angry with fans walking up the stairs. And you said to me,
you were,
don't react. And it really got to me. And I've been like that all day. I'm reading the comments and I start to get angry again because I just don't see that is the way that you want to. If you want, ultimately, as fans, I think we all want the same thing. We show it differently, but we want the same thing. We want Arsenal to win and we want Arsenal to be successful. So if you want Arsenal to be successful, pick them up. Don't put them further down. I can't understand why.
Alex, you beg, borrowed and stole to, not really, but you've had to scrimp hard and work hard and study as well. You're in the middle of doing your thesis and you came over and you watched the game. You didn't want to leave early, but it doesn't make you a better fan, does it?
No, I think we most of us are good fans and proper fans in different ways. I know Trev is one of the best fans I know, and sometimes his emotions gets the better of him, and he needs to go down in the concourse because he can't watch the game in the stadium. So it's just all about emotions, and it's difficult to control them sometimes. But I really get Dan's view because it is frustrating to see, and I feel the same way as Dan, as in I feel very privileged to go, and when I go, I really want to support the team throughout the whole game, and after the game, I want to clap them as well. But yeah, unfortunately, that's not how all fans go about it. So yeah, I think we just got to respect that there's different ways to be a fan and support the team. But I wish they'd all do it how Dan does it, because I really respect that.
Trevor, the achievement we've done this season, we're currently on 81 points. That's winning 6 out of the last 30 Premier League titles. You've been there, done that. You've been going since the 5th of December 1970, I think you said your first game was.
Was it the 5th? Oh, it was the 5th. The 5th, yeah.
Yeah. You've seen good days, bad days. You've been there in the 80s, and what's your thoughts on it? And I think it's amplified by the toxicity that is Twitter.
I don't know about that, Ferg, because you get both sides can comment on Twitter the same as each other. Although I do think that sometimes the good get worried about commenting on some of these bad tweets on Twitter. But the fact of the matter is, football was started playing in the 1860s, and ever since for the first game of football was played, people have been leaving the game before the end. And as long as football's played, they'll continue to leave the game before the end. I don't think they're bad fans. I don't think that the same fans leave the game early every time. There's obviously a few, right? But I don't think it's the same fans. Like me yesterday, I had my missus with me. First time we'd been into London in months and months and months, right? And when we went 3-0 down, I said to her, come on, we'll go and get a beer. I need to spend some time with you now and get this off my chest. And we went in the pub and we had a couple of beers and before we did anything else. Last week when we played, I stayed there till the end and I was the last person out the stadium, and I often am the last person out the stadium. But it's the mood. If I think I've had enough today and I'm going to take my wife and have a beer, or I'm thinking a night game, I get a train at 10:30, and if I miss that, I don't get home till 2 hours later, then I'm going to leave the game and I'm going to go home or I'm going to go and take my wife for a drink. And if people say that they're upset with it, I can understand it, but you'll never change it because that's what we do. And that's what happened with me yesterday. The third goal went in. I said to my missus, come on, we don't get out together very often at football nowadays. Let's go and get a couple of beers in. And that's what we did. I don't consider that wrong. I don't consider it brilliant. But that's it. We went and we had a night. And as I say, last week, I was the last person. Well, actually, the last 2 away games, there was Man City away and Newcastle away, and Dan and me were the last two people to leave the stadium. So just goes to show it's what happens at the time, you know. So you're not going to change it. I can understand the arguments, but I can understand the arguments from both sides. I can't understand people that leave early every single game they go to. That's a different one. But apart from that, it's what happens at football. It's always happened, and it always will. And people that stay till the end and cheer their fans, cheer their players at the end of the game, of passionate fans. People that leave 5 minutes before the end, maybe they're still just as passionate, but they have a different mindset. I don't know. All I know is I do both. If I have to leave a bit early, or I'm in the mood to leave a bit early, then I go. If I'm in the mood to stay, then I stay.
Lyle's got a really good point. The difference between yesterday and previous years is those who were leaving yesterday were disappointed. They weren't angry and abusive towards players. And I have to firsthand say that I didn't hear anybody effing and blinding and going, Arteta's this, or Wenger's that, or, you know, this player, that player. I didn't hear any of that. There was a lot of disappointment. But listen, I think enough has been said on the matter. It's been an absolutely fantastic day. Go on, mate.
Listen, just before, because I can't see what there. Lyle's comment there, right? I've
just talked about that comment.
You what?
I've just put that comment up and said Lyle has made a big the difference between.
I know you did, and that's what's prompted me. You reckon I'm a bit crazy in the head, but the fact of the matter is, the fans. I didn't leave angry with our players or thinking that we hadn't tried our best to perform yesterday. Even though, break it down into steps, we lost 3-0. We were outplayed on the day. I think we were probably outthought by tactically, and we just didn't look like winning it. But I still know in my head that our players were doing their best. And as we all know, that's all I ever ask. And I left there thinking that yesterday. I was really angry because I'm the bad loser. And you boys know better than most how angry I can get when we lose. Fergus, Dan, you had to save me at Liverpool. Was it at Liverpool the other week? Or where was it? Manchester, wasn't it, the other week? You had to save me because I was too angry. You made me see sense. But it's what fans do. We should really... Dan's got a great argument. I think that my thoughts are equally as valid, and you're never going to change it.
I think it is in this situation, though, Trev, just to see your side, because that's one thing that I think people don't often see is the opposing side, right? Myself included. And I think that was one of the things that me and Ferg spoke about earlier when we had a quick chat was don't forget to see both sides. And look, it's hard to see both sides when you're in that emotion, right? And look, I don't think any of us are saying that people that leave early are not proper fans. And I think if it's come across that way, it's not what we really mean, because all we want is, I said, the same thing for the team at the end of the day.
Well, you see,
listen, before we move on, we're going to. What's that?
The comment I've started from Jerry Brady. Let's put it up. Do you want to talk about that briefly? Because I don't know if you've seen it. I found it really interesting.
Don't know.
Did you see that, Ferg?
I saw that video, and if it's the one I think you mean, is it where the players went right up to their ultras and waited and stood there and listened to the fans talk to them?
All the ultras went in front of the stand, and all the players come over because they'd lost and had a chat with the ultras. My view on that is, I don't want our players doing that. I don't want our players feeling that they've got to explain to me how they've played. I think they're good enough for me to know on the field how they've played, even after that defeat yesterday. But it's really interesting because I've seen lots and lots of different thoughts on it on social media. I didn't think it was needed, but then again, it was done. You obviously haven't seen it, boys.
I think I've seen it as well.
You say that.
One of the explanations behind it was that it was more the ultras encouraging the players to pick themselves up for the rest of the seasons rather than the players explaining or apologizing. So I don't know if that was the case, but that might be like an explanation of the video.
Yeah, that's a good take, Alex. That moves the perspective completely. You know what I mean? If that's the case, then I'll see it in a
Trev, it's really interesting because I've been speaking to Alex over the weekend and stuff like that, and some of the stuff that he's doing his university degree on is all about fan culture, and that's what his thesis is on. But it's interesting that the fans interacting with the ultras that way. And if you look at last week, we had Odegaard on FaceTime to fans on the train back from Newcastle. Alex, you were actually going to ask a question last week on that. Ask the boys the question.
Yeah, like it was just I don't know if you've seen the video from last week after the Newcastle game. For me, it was just really, really nice to see that even though we're a club, multinational club with 100 or so million fans all over the world, and in modern football, it feels like the players are drifting further and further away from the fans. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how did it make you feel to see that that it still seems like the players and the fans are so tightly connected in our club?
Dan?
Yeah, in all fairness, I am pleased to see it. I think in previous years gone by, we had a lot more interaction with players and fans. And I think it was also because it's a different era and you could do it, right? And I think for player safety, you do have to be careful. And I think ultimately, right, the ultras in Italy and Milan, a lot of that is out of safety for players, because if they didn't do it, I think there is a lot of the ultras that would cause trouble for the players. So, which is a shame because that should never happen. At the same time, as fans, it makes you feel quite special to have that interaction with players and to feel like they actually acknowledge that you're there and you're not just someone paying their wages and ultimately taking your money. They're there and they have a sort of mutual respect for you as you do for them. So, yeah, I think it's only a good thing, in my opinion.
Trev?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Alex sat me on my backside there looking at it in a different perspective. And it's exactly right. I mean, when we weren't performing so well, when we were coming out of games a few seasons ago thinking we've lost that game, which I don't mind, but the players haven't given us everything now. I've got this feeling in me that the players ain't doing it, ain't wanting to do it for some reason. I used to think to myself, God, I'd love to get in there and give a team talk. I'd love to get in there and just ask them if they realise how the fans feel about watching our great football club. And Stuart, the club photographer, did that this year, didn't he? Did he right at the start of the season? And I think maybe we need to give that talk more credit than we did at the time, because he certainly let the players know just how passionate the fans are. He was quite stern with them, wasn't he? You know, in a nice way. But he made sure he was very factual and to the point about the message he got across. And I think if you look at that and you look at how our players have committed themselves this season, I think it works. And as a fan, I haven't felt that in my head this year that I could make the players play any better as a fan. Going in the dressing room preaching to them, I wouldn't make them play any better. I know that in my head. Whereas in years gone by, I thought to myself, do they know how committed they are? Do they know I've spent 10 grand watching them over land and sea this year? Do they know, that I'm not that I don't miss a game? Do they know that I cry when we lose sometimes at 60 years old? And I didn't think they knew that then. No. But now I think they do. Now I think the players do. I think they give us everything.
And I think that's one of the things Arteta's done the best after he's come in. That's connecting the players with the fans. He's done tremendous at doing that. And Ashburton Army are a product of that as well. And they're growing, and I think he's allowing them to grow as well. The club are, even though I know there's some trouble, but hopefully they can grow even more and get even more support, because I think they're just a good thing for the club.
Listen, we go to Forest on Saturday. We dust ourselves off. We go again. Forest are down here in this relegation battle. They're on 34 points, 3 points from the drop with 2 games to go. Get a result against us and they're safe. Probably even a point gets them safe. Trev, one sentence. How do we approach this? Would you make would one sentence as well? I'm going to start using that to Dan as well shortly. How do we approach this? Would you make mass changes?
As you're talking about, I was wondering whether you were saying how do we approach it as fans or how do we approach it as players. I think that Arteta does whatever he bloody well wants, and he'll have my support. If he makes changes, I'll understand it. If he doesn't make changes, I'll also understand it, because you can look at it in different contexts. So all I know about next week is that I'm going to Nottingham, I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to support my boys till the end, and I'm going to enjoy the day. I'm going to enjoy watching the Arsenal. But as for what's best on the field, Fergus, I don't know. I trust me manager, though.
Slightly more than one sentence, but Dan, could you do it slightly more succinctly?
I'll have you know, I talk in just one sentence, but it's just a very, very long sentence. But yeah,
it is.
I'll keep it short because I know we've massively overrun, haven't we, a little bit?
Yeah.
I think I see a couple of changes maybe for players that have not played as much, but ultimately it'll be a similar approach, right? Let's just try and end the season well and do what we can do as fans and be as loud as we can. But win is all we need.
Alex, score prediction, and we'll go around score predictions.
Yeah, I really hope we can bounce back. I think the fans traveling up there deserve a better performance from the boys. So I hope we'll get a win, maybe another away clean sheet. I'll go for a 2-0.
I'll go for I'll match you with that. I'll go for a 2-0. Actually, no, I'm going to go stronger because I think they'll want to come out and apologise. I'm going to go for a Trevor. I'm going to go for a 4-0.
Trev? Oh my lord! Who are you going to now, me or Dan? You're the leader.
Trev.
Who are you going
Trev.
to now? Oh,
Trev.
Did you say Trev? What?
6 times.
I'm
going deaf, you know.
What? I think that it'll be an open game. I think that we'll see lots of end-to-end stuff. Forest have got to win. To us, it doesn't mean a lot. I know we can still win the league. 3-2 to the Arsenal.
Dan, it was like watching Pickford kick a ball out, wasn't it?
I'll tell you what, though, they don't count that quick at the games, do they?
No.
I think it's going to be a really difficult game because, we're playing a team in Forest that's absolutely fighting for their lives. So I'm going to go for a narrow 2-1 win. But by the way, there's a massive comment in there. Nelson deserves to start.
As I walk these streets alone, through this borough I call home, upon the barren fields of ivory, neath the stadiums of stone, through the turnstiles at the Angel, see the homeless on the green, from the Cali to the cross, and every shithole in between. Past the church, the mosque, a crack den, and the offie on the corner. See the brasses from the brothel that pretends to be a sauna. Watch the bedlam in the bookies, see the winners and the losers seeking solace from their sorrow in the local battle cruisers. Through the madness in the market, weathered faces turn to greet ya. Hello governor, how's your mother? You're right son, be lucky geezer. Double pie and mash and liquor, a couple of rosy up chap, or watch retired gangsters bicker every day in Arthur's calf. The little fuckers causing trouble for the causes make you smile. You meet your muckers for a couple, forget your troubles for a while. From the full nil to the Hemi, all the faces are the same, cause the manner might be changing, but the people still remain. North London forever, whatever the weather, these streets are our own, and my heart will leave you never. My blood will forever run through the stone. As I walk these streets streets alone, through a kingdom made
Boys,
of crows.
it's been a great podcast. I feel a little bit more cheered up. I feel like I got a little bit of, we've done this against the West Ham game, and it just type of lifts a little bit of that baggage and shit off your chest. And we talk about things, and that's what the podcast is about. It's about us mates. We spent the weekend together, most of us. We spent most of this year together, all of us, and it's quite ironic that myself, Trevor, and Alex and your dad only met a year ago, and we were saying last night, very drunk, watching Match of the Day, it's the family. And I heard you saying it yesterday, Dan. It's like our little family. We're all different ages. We're all different, backgrounds and everything else. But we have got one thing on our minds, and that's just Arsenal Football Club. We've had a lot of people watching us, if you do like what we do, if you're listening back to us on audio, go to YouTube. We'd love you to subscribe to us. We do this for this reason and this reason only.
But everyone needs to remember, right, that I'm nearly in tears here now. This has done me. You all know how passionate I am. You know I'm a silly old sod. But look at the bigger picture, right? We've been getting the press talking about us, good things about us this year. That doesn't happen unless Arsenal are really good, We've had other fans on our backs because they're jealous of us, jealous of what we've done. And always remember, we're the Arsenal. We support the greatest team in the world. Never forget it.
Trevor time was taken up by Dan. We nearly renamed it Dan time. Guys, it's been absolutely brilliant. I could sit here for another couple of hours chatting to you four. Thank you everybody who's been in the chat. Really, really good to see some new faces in there. We've got Spencer, we got Kevin Treese, even Victoria. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself over here. Lots of the other regular faces as well. Thank you very much for joining us. You have been watching an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. If you do like us, go over to YouTube, click the like and subscribe button. We're here every week, and I can't find the music. I'll pad it out a little bit. Here we go. There we go. Up the Arsenal fuck.
You've been listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans.
Hang on, bloody team. Oh, new face.
Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too.
I got a couple of new faces wrong in there. We're still recording, guys. I got a couple of new faces wrong in there. I don't read all the chat. He does that. That's his job. Kevin, I'm really sorry, mate. Just glad you come back. We didn't turn you off completely.
Listen, I love putting all that chat up there. I love doing that job. But people, some of them were really long tonight. Just keep it to about 25 words maximum, and then we can get them up on the screen. If you go much more than that, we start covering Dan and Alex up, and it don't look so good. Although,
the other thing, if you really want to be awkward, put big words in there, because I really struggle with big words. Anything longer than like 4 or 5 letters, and I'm screwed. Thanks, everyone. Good evening. I'm gonna have a beer.